Before I get into the video, I just want to say a thank you to everyone that sent me a message off the back of last week's story. It was great to have a chat with you and for us to reminisce about those early days and how we all discovered the underground house scene. I had conversations between friends and those that I was spending those days with, and I got to hear their perspective and how they found the scene, which is crazy to think that I didn't even know that. You know, we hadn't shared these things between ourselves, and it wasn't until I shared my perspective and how I found it and what I was feeling inside that it sparked these conversations for me to have with friends, but also people that I don't know of how you guys found it and how you fell in love with it, and that was really good. We have these different perspectives and we all go off and experience these things, and sometimes you can be with people experiencing the same thing but from that different perspective, and it's not until years pass, in this case, that you actually end up having those chats and go, oh bro, do you remember that? At the time you're just living it, and you might say, oh that's cool, did you enjoy last night or whatever, but it's not a deep conversation, or it wasn't a deep conversation of us telling each other how we felt within and what it was sparking within us all. You're just taking it in your stride and living in it, which is the way it should be. So it was great off the back of last week's video to really sort of have those chats, and it was funny and it was interesting, and yeah, quite heartwarming to reminisce and hear what we was all experiencing and how much of a common theme there is between that for us all, you know. I mean, last week's video and me telling my story, I realised that there was a key influence, it was a key theme, sorry, on consistency and what that done for me. So let's talk about burnout. When you're working towards a goal and you feel like you're on a mission, this normally leads to long hours that sometimes span over years and years and years, and there comes a point when your body needs a break, especially if you haven't been living a balanced lifestyle or giving yourself moments to reset and take a step back. It leads to burnout, and I'm sure many of you guys have experienced it. I've experienced it myself, and really I think it's your body's way of saying, right, go away, do some other things, let the work that you've done land, and it's your body's way of telling you that a reset's needed. This played out for me in 2023. I'd just launched a record label. It was a few years in the making, a lot of work, and a goal that I'd been striving towards. So I think it's quite common, I hear it quite a lot actually, of when you've got this goal in mind, this end mission, once you get there, it's a bit of a like, whoa, now what? And for me that played out in feeling zapped. I had no motivation or inspiration to work on the things that I had been working on up until that point. I wanted to be away from the computer, I wanted to be away from the studio, away from the phone, anything that was within that sort of world. Every bit of my being was telling me to get away from it. And it was confusing, you know, because it was probably the first time I'd had that since a young age of enjoying music and enjoying being creative and working on something. I've always had a clear vision of what I wanted to be doing, so I've loved cracking on in it and enjoying that process. So for the first time for me to feel that I didn't want to be doing that was kind of hard, and the burnout itself, it's gnarly, it's exhausting, but it's not a negative. Looking back now, I can see how for me this really wasn't a negative, and there's ways that you can transform that, as I said, in putting energy into other aspects of your life that you've probably been neglecting. And I truly believe that any sign of burnout, hopefully you catch it before you're at that stage of burnout, but when you're being called elsewhere, listen to it and go with that and see what comes up for you. I do really think it's a time for reflection, and I believe that some real good things can come out of it, some positive things can come out of it. Your being isn't just about being creative, you've got other areas to focus on and give love to, and I hope that most of you do that on a regular. But I think that's part of the mastery, is making sure that you live in a balanced lifestyle, because if not, your soul is going to be screaming for some love to be put elsewhere. And often I think that's what the burnout symptoms are, is that there's time needed elsewhere to focus on that and give yourself what you need. So in this period of time that it played out for me, I wasn't feeling productive at all, which was kind of a hard feeling for me to have. I like doing things, I like knowing what I'm focused on and turning up each day to walk that path. Yeah, I can see how vital this burnout was for me as a character, to take myself away and dive into some other things that at the time I didn't know what they were going to be. But just by needing to be outside of the studio, be outside of anything really music related, because that was what I needed the break from. Some beautiful things come of it, and my whole lifestyle in a way at that period completely shifted to what it had been before. I was up super early, I was going to bed early, I was walking a lot. I was taking my dog out early in the morning for an hour, dropping him back home, and then going for an hour and a half walk myself, walking through the fields, walking through the lanes, and having that time with myself just to, as I said, let the work land, but also kind of sit internally with what was going on and give myself a break. Fundamentally, that was all that was in my mind, is I just need a break. But it was very much a back to basics reset for me, being outside the studio and having these walks and reading and going to bed early and waking up early. And it was the most that I'd dived into meditation at that time. For me, it was a real kind of a deep internal process that was born or come about because of this burnout and need to be away from the creative projects that I'd been working on up until that point. So it was a real positive, you know, and to have that complete lifestyle shift up of now I'm doing other things because I'm outside the studio was perfect for me. And I look back now at that time and I can see how vital that was in who I am today and the character that comes. Some really good habits come off of that. I explored a lot within myself and my character that have led me up till today, really, and who I am today. It sounds maybe a bit over the top, but it's true. Sitting with myself and diving into the work that I'd done up until that point and knowing that things were landing, but how was I feeling about it and what direction I wanted to go in. And yeah, the things that come from completely taking a step back. And I think burnout is an opportunity for us to do this in any walk of life. It doesn't have to be music or as a creative, but I feel like it's common in this field just because you're your own boss and you keep going. And because it's a love, it can be hard to recognise that you're not being balanced and that you're not putting love into other areas of your being and other areas of your life that are probably calling for your attention. I look back now and I can recognise that this time was probably the most inward period of growth that I've ever had. And even though the 3D feels like you're not being productive because you're away from the projects that you feel like you should be or want to be working on, you're just not being called to work on them. On a spiritual level, it was huge for me, you know, and it was definitely productive on that realm. And for me as a character, when you're in it, it's hard to recognise this because you've sort of got that thing creeping in of like, oh, why am I feeling this way? Why am I being pulled away, repelled in a way from the things that I enjoy doing normally and the things that normally I'm super inspired to keep working on. But as I said, there's other areas of your life that need some attention. And for me at that time, taking myself away and sitting with myself and not pressuring myself to turn back and keep going on, just to listen to the body, listen to my mind and connect. And as I said, spiritually, that was huge for me. Now knowing not only how nice that period of time was for me to completely take a step back and just sit with self, I can recognise that it was vital in me becoming who I am today, and I'm grateful for it. How else was my body going to tell me that I needed a break? You know, it's going to be through burnout, and I'm pleased it was and not something else, because I'm a true believer in that the universe is going to make you stop if you need to stop, if you need a break. And if you keep ignoring that sign, if it's burnout or other areas, then I feel the universe will have its way of making sure that you do listen. And I'm pleased that it wasn't an accident or anything like that made me stop, and that it was the signs of burnout and lack of inspiration and drive within music that made me take a step back and to see this. Now, if any of you are frustrated or feel these signs of burnout, maybe you can relate with previous periods of time where you felt it, or maybe you're in it now and you keep stepping forward. If you're ignoring the signs, or you can feel that the signs are there, I really encourage you to see it this way, that it's a sign of your body telling you that just let it all land, take a step back, it will come back around, and that's all fine. You know, don't press yourself in to keep going, because there's definitely some huge growth that can come from burnout and taking a step away from your normal routine and allowing yourself to just dive into other aspects of your life. I was sitting carving spoons, for example, and I just wanted to be in nature. I wanted to be barefoot on the grass and really just be with self and be inward. You know, I wasn't on my phone, I wasn't around the computer, I wasn't in the studio. So still being creative, as I said, on a spiritual level and in other ways. For me, it was carving spoons and enjoying that hands-on aspect of creating something. But as I said, it was also just a back to basics reset of a switch up that was definitely healthy for me. Made me realise the signs that come when you do need to be doing other things and not just keep striving in work or the projects that you're running. So I do really encourage you that you see it this way and lean into it and encourage it, because you don't know what's going to come from it. It doesn't have to be procrastination. In fact, like for me, it played out in the complete opposite way. It definitely wasn't procrastination. I was moving forward, just in a different way. And then before you know it, you're back into it. It did last a couple of months for me, and I gave myself that time. I was having business ideas in this time. I was reading a lot, discovering new wisdom, and because I had the time, you know, there was nothing else that I wanted to be doing other than just going with the flow and seeing what came up. And I'm grateful that I gave myself that time. I really, really am. And as I said, I'm quite fond of that period of time. And it, when I come back into things, it started a kind of a real good period of time for me, creatively, but also seeing my projects land where I wanted them to land. I had some real good feedback and some good things going on off the back of that. If they were linked or not, I don't completely know. It doesn't really matter. But what I do know is that my body had what it needed, and that was to take a step back and to go back to basics, feet on the ground, and just sit and let it all land. And I think that's really, really important. Use burnout to grow in other areas of your life. You know, take a step back, get in nature, just sit with things, let everything else land, and grow as a character, and sit with yourself as a character. And I truly believe that there will be a huge positive that comes from that. It might relate to your projects, it might not, but it doesn't matter, you know. It's really about you giving yourself what you need.